Good morning, Garfield Learning Community. I am so glad to kick off this new year with you. We're going to start this morning with a short presentation, but before we do, I'd really like to ask you a favor. I want you to pull out a piece of paper or your notebook and jot down a couple words, both positive or negative, that people have used to describe you in the past. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. Great. I want you to talk with your table about how these words made you feel. Did you agree with them? Were they defining words? Were they true? Go ahead and talk with your table. Thanks. Let's bring it back up here. So the point of today is to understand how words and word choice can affect others, but specifically members in our community with special needs or disabilities. So today we are going to be conferencing over the concept of people first language. What is people first language? Well, to put it simply, people first language is saying people first with their disabilities second when speaking grammatically. On a deeper, more complex level, all people, those with or without disabilities, have interests, things they enjoy, things they don't like, things that make them happy, and things that make them sad. When we reference people in a way that denotes they are simply their disability, we are stripping them from their humanity and identity. If you look at the chart to the left, I've incorporated some examples of people first language. Some do's and don'ts, if you will. All of us at some point may have been guilty of using one or more of these terms, but the goal of this training for Garfield Elementary is to become aware of our word choice and model it for the students so that it becomes a cultural norm for our building. Take a moment to look at the chart and read through the examples. Great. Let's look at a couple specific ones. For instance, she is wheelchair bound. That's an incorrect way to say it. Instead, we could say something like, she uses a wheelchair to get around. Sometimes you might hear children referred to as the autistic child. That strips away that child's identity. He or she is the child first. They are a child who has autism. Or, let's get more specific. They are a child who loves to run, camp, play outside, and they also have autism. I wanted to share a quote with you I found from an online website. I think it's very powerful and one that should be heard and digested again and again. Our words and the meanings we attach to people with disabilities create attitudes, drive social policies and laws, influence our feelings and decisions, and affect people's daily lives, and more. How we use our words makes a difference. People first language puts the person before the disability and describes what a person has, not who the person is. Using a diagnosis as a defining characteristic reflects prejudice and also robs the person of the opportunity to define him or herself. Here's the quote again. I'd like you to take another moment to reread the quote. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to share out with your table your initial thoughts and reactions to this quote. Go ahead and get started. Great. Let's go ahead and bring it back up here. Let's talk about our why and how we should create a culture that promotes people first language. Our building has always been a place that celebrates uniqueness and strives for the success of all students. I want to be really clear when I say I know no one in this building would ever intend to misuse language or say something towards someone in a way that belittled them or stripped them away of their identity. However, I think it is valuable that we have these conversations to remind ourselves that every word coming out of our mouths as educators count. So let's talk about how and why we should create a culture that promotes people first language. For me, my why for our building is that it creates equality for everyone, especially those who feel they haven't always been seen as equal. It also allows us to acknowledge that regardless of a disability, all people have gifts and strengths that need celebrated. As our how, we as a building, the staff, the teachers, and community leaders can model the words we want students using. Every day they are watching us and learning from us. Let's use this opportunity to teach them about grace and humility when talking to or about others. Next week, you will receive a link from me that is similar to this presentation, but more for our students. I would like you each to schedule a time to show the video to your class and then hold a candid conversation with them following the video. Allow them to ask questions, allow them to understand, and allow them to make mistakes on how they say things with little judgment. Let's work on self-correcting and awareness next week to enhance our building culture for the equality of all. If we take a look at this chart, diversity is the theme represented. Although there are times people still are not politically correct towards others, it is something we have worked on and addressed in the school system for years. Now is the time to do the same for people and students with disabilities. The chart indicates that the largest diverse group is those who have disabilities, and even still within this chart, we can't categorize them as all being the same. This is a large group. Roughly 19% of our population has a disability. That is 1 in 5 people, and each of those 1 are unique to their own strengths and interests. It is our time to make a change in not only how we speak, but how we view and think of people with disabilities. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and have a candid conversations with your teammates. I'm going to remind you that next week you will receive a link from me to share with your kiddos. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you need any support or help or want to share concerns or reflections over your classroom chat. I am here if you need anything. I'm going to leave you with one final quote. Thanks again for all you do every day. Let's make this year great as a Bengal family.